a special Listeners Beware episode. Joining us today is artist Tim Jacobus, known for creating the iconic Goosebumps covers that we have come to know and love in association with all things Goosebumps. Welcome to the show, Tim.
What's happening? How are you guys?
Doing well. Super excited to have you on.
Well, thanks. Nobody at my house is super excited to see me, so.
I know how that goes. I walk in and people are like, grumble, grumble.
Yeah, this is kind of our season 1.5 episode in between season 1 and 2. We covered the first 20 books in the first season. Wow. Your cover art has been a constant reminder of how important Goosebumps were in the 90s. And it's an honor to have you on here.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like every episode that we've had over the last season has just, we always incorporate in the art of the books. And I feel like both of us have said that the same thing. The reason we read each book when we were younger was because the art drew us in. So it's really exciting to have you on.
Oh, very cool. I appreciate that.
So for you, when you became the artist for the Goosebumps books, did they approach you initially, or was there some kind of call for art?
No, I had worked with Scholastic for a few years prior to Goosebumps coming out. I didn't do any series work for them, and I didn't do any horror. But I had done some kids related books, and I was, I was in between projects, and this one came along, and back then I didn't even know who R.L. Stine was, and they were pitching the series, but there were very low expectations for the series at the beginning. So it was a backhanded pitch where it was like, hey, we've got this series. We don't think it's going anywhere. We don't even have a full budget for cover art. Will you help us out on this one? And we promise you when this is over, we'll put you on to another series and we'll make it up to you. So from my perspective at the beginning, I just looked at it as, well, whether it's full budget or not, a job on the desk is better than the job that may come or may not come. So I was all about, and I still kind of am all about, just grabbing whatever is available. And so I was kind of standing in the right place at the right time.
Well, you came out the gate swinging with that first book cover.
Well, thank you. So what happened with that is I had done a series of books for Scholastic, and they were in-house. We referred to them as Women in Jeopardy books. And the basic premise almost to every story was there's a mom and she's out doing her thing, raising her kids, and she stumbles upon a crime and tries to report it, and nobody listens to her, and she solved the crime by herself. And so the stories had a similarity to them, and so did the artwork on the covers. So our model for it was, it's nighttime. There's a building in the background. We're going to use that classic worm's eye view, so you're looking up at the building, and it's very ominous. There's one light on in a window, and then in the foreground, there's something, some sort of clue, a lady's shoe, a cigarette butt, a kid's doll, something. So I did a bunch of these books. So I did every kind of building you could ever do, and I did every kind of thing in the gutter that you could possibly do. And when, like I said, when this Goosebumps thing came along and the first book was Welcome to Dead House, the art director I was working with goes, yeah, you could, mess around with what you want, but boy, that thing you always do for the Women in Jeopardy would work perfect here. If you could do the low worm's eye view, looking at the building with a light on, it would work. And I was like, okay, yeah. We haven't done a haunted house. All the other buildings were just regular buildings. So, okay, let's do that. So, from my perspective, it wasn't even something newish to me. This was like number 11 in the series of books that I had done. But because it was a kid's book, I did uh, dial up the colors a little bit more, where the other books were for adults. So, they were maybe a little more, gray in the palette. So when this one came along, it's like, all right, well, this will be fun. There will be a color study, go blue on the buildings and do the warm yellows and oranges in the windows to really, have the contrast and grab your attention.
It works, and the style became iconic. I mean, we see the colors we associate with Goosebumps. Even just the color palettes used is very Goosebumps styled.
So I did book one, and a different illustrator did book two, Stay Out of the Basement. His name was Jim Thiessen. And again, they weren't thinking that this was hundreds of books. They were thinking this is 4 books, 6 books. And Jim was a way established horror illustrator. And so they were going, we're not sure what we want to do here. We don't know if we want to use your style or Jim's style. So we're actually going to let you do book 1 and he'll do book 2. And then when we're done, we'll see them after they're actually produced and then pick one. And then that guy will do the remaining couple of books. So Jim's stuff is great. Stay Out of the Basement's a great cover. But the element of making these books too scary for kids was of utmost importance to the people at Scholastic. And it came down to that rich color palette where they went, yeah, that's way less scary. Tim's stuff's a little less realistic, and the color palette is, this is not what you usually see on horror books. So let's just go with that. So yeah, the colors were instrumental in me getting to do the rest of the books.
Yeah, I did notice while we were rereading these books that some of the covers do have your signature on it. And I was like, hey, I never noticed that before. With your covers, outside of your signature, was there anything else that you kind of commonly use kind of to thread the covers at all?
Well, because we got a chance to do so many of them, it wasn't a conscious thing at the beginning of, oh, all right, I've got this whole master plan in the back of my head. And as we do these, I'm going to put these little things in, these, the Easter eggs in wherever I can. They kind of evolved and happened on their own. Yeah, my signature is on most of them. It wasn't on all of them. Usually what happened is at some point I signed them all, but there were times where I would sign my name and then I'd see something and I'd go back and I'd touch it up. And I did a lot of airbrush work on there, and I'd spray my name out and then I'd just go, who cares? Just send it in. Other times they would take the art and they would crop it tighter and my name would fall outside outside the window. And then, so back in the day, I would get handwritten letters from, the kids who were reading Goosebumps, and they used to a lot of them mentioned, hey, that's so cool how you hide your name in the covers. And I really wasn't hiding it, but I went, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Well, I'm going to start really hiding it. So there's times where you think I didn't sign it and it's in some obscure place and I barely put any contrast on it. And then at some point I realized, well, my name's not appearing in the first editions of Goosebumps. My name didn't appear on the title page. And there I am now making my name almost invisible. And I said, well, this is very bad marketing on my part. So how about we just start signing it again and leave it at that? But back to your original question, the first thing that I added in as a common element was anytime you would see a kid's feet in the covers, one of them or all of them have to be wearing high top Converse Chuck Taylor sneakers. That was just, only because I wear them. I still wear them. I would put my foot up on the desk and show you, but I'm not as limber as I used to be. I have them on now. And so that was one thing that I always did. The second thing that started to happen was the perspective. I started to warp the perspective in the room. So to amplify that, there was a perspective warp. There would be a tile ceiling or a tile floor, and then you would see those tiles. None of them had a straight edge on them. They would all be bending and twisting in. So that again was another one. And then the only other thing I did was when the material allowed it. So if there was an actual person in the cover, I would always take a quick Polaroid picture as reference, just so you get that nice subtle lighting. And when when it would work out right, I would always use a family member or the friend's kid or something. So at the time, the kid loves it. Every kid loves the idea that, well, there you are, you're on the cover. And now, 30 years later, it's even funnier. So that was so those were a handful of things that I did throughout.
That's great.
Now I know what I'm going to order for Christmas. I'm going to order myself as a Goosebumps cover. No, just kidding.
That's great. And as we move into future seasons and episodes, we'll definitely have to try to find your autograph hidden in places like a Where's Waldo of.
So, but the thing is, sometimes it's not there. So don't start going with the magnifying. So you have to remember too, the original art was 20 inches by 20 inches. And so when I signed my art, it would be, 2 inches long, but then they take that and they reduce it down to a 3-inch by 3-inch image. Now that name gets pretty tiny. And so it wasn't that I was, working real hard to make it small, just on that scale. That was the comfortable size to sign.
Well, don't worry. I won't call you in tears. I can't find it on this book.
I couldn't find Jacobus.
Look on the railing of the stairs going diagonally.
He's going to give us clues. I do, two of my favorite covers are The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight and Welcome to Horrorland, which are both yours. I do love your use of orange to highlight against like the grass as a highlighting contrasting color. I thought that was
bringing
really
that
neat.
Secondary light, from the side,
Mm-hmm.
So so it really is kind of a formula to it. If everything's both of those are cool colors. They're the one that has a little more purple, but they're very blue and purple in their total makeup, and then the green in the Scarecrow Walks. But then just to make something weird off camera, as if there's a fire going on to the side or some weird orange light comes in. So now that's a complementary color to the blues and the purples, but it fills in the shadow side and just gives it some, some pop. The oranges as the secondary light are great. And when the colors are reversed, the teal blue is a great one to throw in there as a filler.
And you mentioned the warping that you do. And after saying that and looking at the covers, I see even like with the corn stalks, they warp around and the grass. Yep. So that's really neat.
Again, leaning at it, again, that low perspective. Everything when you're looking at it should make you feel small.
I'm a kid again.
That's it. Exactly.
So did you ever repurpose anything that you had done previously, like as a Goosebumps cover, or was it all based on, well, I guess what was the process between you and RL and how you came up with the cover concepts?
So RL was writing the book at the same time I was doing the cover. So he would give me the title, like whenever the way he writes is he comes up with the title of the book first, then he does his outline, then he begins to write it. So he was in the beginning stages of that process. So I would get the title of the book and just a couple of sentences, sometimes a paragraph, but never much more than that. And that would be all that I would get to start. And now that's unusual. Usually in the book business, the book has long been finished. You get a whole book to read. An art director will have, post-it notes here, read this section, read this section. I think these are good. There's a lot to choose from. So working the way we worked was super beneficial to me, because if you just give me a little bit, Scarecrow walks at midnight. He almost didn't have to write down anything else. There's, that's it. That's all I need. So then I have all the freedom in the world, because I haven't been giving very many details at all. And that's great. So I always did 3 sketches for every cover. So in case the idea that I think is so marvelous wasn't marvelous to everybody, there were 2 alternatives that they could go, oh, yeah, we like number 3. So, I never had to go back and do more. Like whenever I submitted my 3, there was something in there that we all could live with. Sometimes it was, we like the background on sketch number 2, but we like the character in sketch number 1. Can you put those 2 together? And so that would be as much, overall critique there would be at that stage. The repurposing part, though, I can't think of a specific example, but yes, like I said, I'm doing 3 sketches for each one. And there's ideas in there that I like that, didn't get used. So when I'm now developing a fresh idea, I may be using something from, where in this book, it was about, Werewolf of Fever Swamp, and this one's, about something else. But there was something cool in there that I liked, the way the trees were in the background, or, the reflection in the water or something. I'll go, yeah. Let's use that on this new one. And so, there was an evolution, and there were some good ideas that were left on the table that would be fun to go back if I had, endless time and endless money to, and just go, all right, here's a whole bunch of Goosebumps. Here's all of them. Let's go back to every Goosebumps and redo them with an idea that was submitted, but just never got done.
Is there one that you created that was like one of your favorites to produce, to create?
Yeah, there was a few of them. The ones that have family members in it are the ones that I, would always be, that would always be fun. The ones where, there was times where I put myself in them, and, because I had to be so ridiculous, I couldn't ask anybody to act as ridiculous as I want. Infamously, the camp counselor on the cover of Camp Jelly Jam is me. So, so I hiked my pants up and put a hat on and made a stupid smile and got my picture taken with the Polaroid camera, and there you have it. But I like the ones where, again, we'll go back, we're going to use your Scarecrow walks at midnight. Everybody can get an image of that. Just by the title alone, everybody will conjure up an image, even long before I make the art or make the cover. It's very explicit what that is. Then, we start doing this for a while, and RL starts coming up with wild stuff. So, like, okay, egg monsters from Mars. And I'm going, wow, what is an egg monster from Mars? Is it giant? No, it's not giant. And then it's like, wow, I have to make this up from thin air. So those were more fun. Those were, actually they weren't challenging because nothing exists. if I'm doing the Werewolf of Fever Swamp, everybody knows what a wolf looks like, and my wolf better come out exactly the way a wolf looks. But an egg monster from Mars, I got all the freedom in the world because I'm not wrong. I can't be wrong. So I like those. The ones where what's another one? It came from beneath the sink. What came from beneath the sink? Ooh, it was a killer sponge. And I'm going, come on. What are we doing here? So, but again, so you figure out how to make that evil sponge come to life, and those were the ones that were more fun.
I mean, you did it well. You have like the green with the eyes. It's like, I don't know what that is, but it's
and
terrifying.
just that is anytime in early on, and it was none of the ideas that I submitted. Early on, you're trying to go, all right, what can I do? And they all were way too comical. So once you go, all right, I just got to hide this thing. And like you say, some glowing eyes and just hint at that might be a sponge behind the drain pipe. Then you got something. Yeah. When all goes poorly, hide it in the dark.
Well, and there's some stuff that I feel like I'm not an artist in that way. So where you kind of have to be creative in just a completely different way because, for example, Monster Blood, how do you make that compelling on a cover? You did it. You're like, let me just have it, creep down the stairs and we'll make it ominous with the shadowing. And that's creative, right? Because otherwise you just have a can of Monster Blood.
Yeah. Right. And and that there again, there was some thought to that where it's like, all right, I know how to make stuff look like it's pouring or dripping, but what's going to be interesting here? And I don't know if the stairs were given in the directions or not. My memory's not that good, but that worked perfect. Just having, coming down all the steps and then throwing the kids' glasses in there, just to make it let you know all's not well.
Yeah.
All is not well in this world.
It sticks with you for sure. You talk about the 3 sketches for each book. Do you own those, or are those in like a warehouse in Scholastic somewhere? Like, do you know where those went?
All the paintings are in a warehouse for Scholastic. They back then scanners weren't available, and photographing illustrations was it was a process, and it was such a specialized process. There was kind of one person. There was more than one, but there was one we all went to photograph our art. And the guy had a setup, with an easel and a giant camera in the front. You would put your art on there, and he would take it, use a Hasselblad camera, and he would take 8x10 transparencies, which were like slides. And so reproduction was a pain in the neck. So they knew they would be reusing the art often. And they said, listen, instead of us having to keep calling you and say, hey, can we have these 3 paintings back so we can make another, transparency? Can we just buy them? And I was like, sure, go ahead and buy them. And they paid me for them. And I was just like, oh, what a score this was. And now all these years later, I could kick myself in the butt for being, going, oh, yeah, that's great. Again, nobody knew. They weren't trying to get the art from, like there was nothing nefarious about it. It was just like, sure, if you'll pay me anything for them, they're just going to sit in my closet. And now, oh boy, I'd really like to have them now.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
But the sketches I do have. Those are in. So there's a book that came out 2 years ago called The Art of Goosebumps, and it has all my covers. And the guy who put it together is somebody who's a close personal friend. Totally by accident. I didn't get him the job. There was no, it just happened. He got the gig. So because he's such a close friend, it was like, all right, let's go up in the attic. Let's dig through this stuff. Here's all the files that, contain all the original job requirements, all the, I just here, I'm going to just take them. They're, and where I wouldn't do that obviously, I wouldn't do that to a perfect stranger. So, so he meticulously went through them all. Most of the sketches were there. So that was the thing that for me, that was the thing that made the book interesting. If it was just reproductions of the covers, everybody's seen them already. So the way the book is set up, every cover has a double page spread. On the left is the finished final art, and then on the right are some blurbs, and then you get to see the sketches that were used for each.
We're gonna need that book.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So first printing, very cool, sold out right away. But it took a real long time for the second printing to go through. But now it's readily available everywhere. You can get it on Amazon. I sell it through my website. It's a nice oversized coffee table book, very reasonably priced. It came out very, very nice. I'm very proud of it.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to link it in the show notes.
So, how long did it take for you to usually come up with an idea or concept after they had given you the title and like the log line?
What was great about Goosebumps is that every time RL concocted a new book, it was everything's brand new. New monster, new kid, new town, new problem. Everything's new. If I was on a series, and I always use Harry Potter as the example, but if you're doing, I did over 100 Goosebumps covers. If I had to do 100 Harry Potter images, I would have hung myself by now. So the idea that everything was fresh and new was just such a gift. And the idea part of it was always pretty quick. I could read through it and go, yeah, I got a pretty good idea what I'm going to do here. Sketches usually would take a day and a half to do. And then because we were in the early days of technology, I would draw them on a 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper, and then I would fax them over to the people at Scholastic. And the sketches look good at my house. What they were looking at on the other end were, I'm surprised they knew anything that I was doing. So, but there was enough for them to pick an idea, and then that was it. They'd just go, okay, just do it. So I could finish a painting in about 30 hours. When we were operating smoothly, I could do start to finish, concept to finish in a week.
Wow.
The main thing with Goosebumps, well, one of the main things was we were coming out once a month. So the time thing was, that took precedence over everything. It's like, well, where are we in the process? Are we on time? What was just, a godsend was nobody had time to mess with my artwork. So when it was done, they'd be like, all right, it's got to go. And unless something was incredibly, incredibly wrong, they didn't have time to pack it back up. Again, these are all tangible pieces of art, and ship it back to me. I make the correction. I ship it back to them. That 3-day turnaround, we don't have that. So everybody kind of had to go, no, we're going to live with that. Start the next one. All right, keep going. Just keep going. So that was super, super helpful in getting stuck in the weeds of, gee, could you make his shirt blue? I think blue would be nice. And so I didn't have to touch very, very, very many of the Goosebumps.
Did RL have to have any input or sign off, or was he just kind of running parallel with you, working on the story while you were working on the art?
Yeah, they. You would think in a world where you're imagining what it's like to be in the publishing business, that authors and illustrators would, have, constant conversations along the way. Here's what my new book is. What do you have in mind? Da, da, da. In actuality, they purposely keep us both apart. Hardly any author has any say in what goes on their book cover. RL, as the author, worked with an editor. Me, as the illustrator, worked with an art director. And then the art directors and the editors talk. So he was just a name for the longest time. We were probably doing book covers for almost 2 years before I was in the same room with him and shook his hand. And then on the far side of that, he would never see any of this concept drawings. He would never know what we were doing, and they would just show him the art right around the time he's finishing the book. So, thank God he liked 99% of the stuff that I did. So that was always, for years I didn't know. It's just like, I hope the dude likes us, because I just keep throwing these things, jamming them down his throat every month. And, they keep going out the door. So I know it can't be bad, but he's never said anything. The people that I worked with at the publisher, I got my feedback from them, but I was like, I don't know. Does he like it? Who knows? So years later, yes, he's said very nice things to me. So
that's great. Was there ever a time where your art was just so off base that it had to be changed or the story shifted to fit your art?
Yes. So this is RL's story. I didn't know at the time that this happened. And this was, 5 years ago, I heard this story. So, Say Cheese and Die is one of the early Goosebumps covers. It was, for me, one of the first ones where I realized that we're not just doing straight horror. There's a comedic element to it. There's a little bit, there's a layer of jokes and fooling around. And just the title alone, Say Cheese and Die, I was like, oh, okay. So we're fooling around here a little bit. So the art director and I, again, came up with some sketches and, the concept of the family of skeletons at the barbecue fell into place. And when I got done, I was like, yeah, this is, this is a pivotal point. I understand a lot more about what we're doing. So this one is I'm proud of this one. This is very cool. So fast forward 25 years and RL's telling the story and he goes, yeah, so I get this painting of this family of skeletons barbecuing and I see it and I was like, yeah, this is a really great painting, but there's no family of skeletons barbecuing in my story. And they're going, he's like, well, what are we going to do here? And they said, well, it's going to take Tim way longer to paint us a new painting than for you to alter your story. So they forced him to make a change to his story so that the family of skeletons barbecuing showed up, and he wrote a dream sequence in where the kid dreams of it, and he's like, I hate dream sequences. So this piece that I was so in love with, going, oh, I really hit the mark with this one, is the one he vehemently dislikes the most. And I was like, now it's tainted. The whole thing's tainted.
I think it's fun.
Yeah. I love that.
When I heard it too, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's kind of brutal. Yeah, sorry, dude. Not on purpose.
I hate dream sequences because I feel like in the 20 books we've read, there've been a few. So
yeah. Well, if you go into the story and you have it planned that way,
right?
It's okay. It's when you're just jamming it in there because the artist did something completely out of left field. That's more problematic. There's nothing wrong in my mind. There's nothing wrong with the dream sequence. That's what that's the plan.
Right.
I mean, given that you guys were working almost completely independent of one another and you're giving just a small scope of the story, I'm impressed that that only happened like once
We
because
we talk about that all the time. We should have gone off the rails, 1 out of 5. We marvel at, the number of times we hit the mark. And and then again, he's writing a story. I don't really know what goes on. I go back and I look at a story and I go, holy, look at that. That really lines up. And I had no idea he was going to write that into the story. So, yeah, there was some special sauce in what we were doing. Didn't know it, again, there was no social media, there's no email. So if I want to get in contact with him, Bob, I have to call him on the phone, which I'm not going to do, or I have to literally handwrite him a letter. And I wrote him a few, letters during the time we were working together. And so the day to day or the how's things going conversations never happened the whole time we were doing them.
That's amazing. And I'm not going to tell him this if he comes on the show, but that cover is what sold me on that book. So, I mean, you did your job.
Well, over the years, it's become a meme. You see it. It's in a lot of places. For the where the artwork shows up, it's definitely in the top 5 of the ones you see on T-shirts. You see, just as people go, oh, here we're going to talk about Goosebumps. It's in the 5 that they will show you to say, yes, this is what Goosebumps was. So I know he's not terribly mad, but yeah, it's a good story.
It is.
To hear it 25 years later was like, I thought I heard everything. I thought I had heard it all by then. So all good.
we're just going to call that scholastic serendipity. So
That's it.
That's good.
And your color choice, that was you, the palette that you chose, and now Goosebumps green is a thing that you can say Goosebumps green and people know exactly what color you're talking about. And I think that's interesting, because prior to that, who knows what we were calling it, but now we call it Goosebumps green.
That's cool.
With the font, because I believe that was somebody else in-house, right?
Yes.
In Scholastic who did the font. Did they match the colors that they used to your cover, or were they also working independently?
No. So the book designers themselves would wait until, of course, they would see the artwork that they're now going to design the book for, and they would purposely lift colors out of the painting. So every book, every Goosebumps book had the word Goosebumps was in a different color, and the drippy frame around the outside was also in a different color. So they were very, very coordinated to what I did, but they didn't have any advance notice. They would just see it and go, all right, let's do those 2 colors. And let's get, again, everybody's just hurry up. Got to get it out the door. Let's not fool around. But that was great that they didn't choose a single style and then just keep reusing the book, because that's the standard operating procedure. So the fact that there's just there's as many different colors on the covers as there are covers.
Yeah. And I don't think some of those colors exist anymore. They are staunchly like 90s palettes.
Not in those combinations.
Yeah.
Yeah. All that. Yeah. Then, I mean, that's cool. And that's very nice of you guys to say that, over the years, there are things where, so when I'm doing illustrations now, people who hire me still want that style. And I know I can put art up that's, for something completely different. And the minute it goes up, people go, oh, that's that, not knowing it's me, not knowing anything. Oh, that looks like a Goosebumps cover. And it's like, all right, well, it's still got a formula to it. And again, I believe that this is more due to the fact of how many books we did. If we only did 10, it wouldn't have that, oh, look at this, there's another one in the group. I did over 100 of them. So, there has to be some sort of style that falls out of that, but it's a sheer volume thing. And I think if there was less books, it certainly wouldn't have an impact now in 2024.
I mean, it had to compete with all of the other books at the book fair. And
Yes.
so using the vibrant colors.
Right. But we had the luxury of, it wasn't like it was at Barnes and Noble. It's the Scholastic Book Fair. So there's some geography books in there, and there's some math books in there, and there's some other stuff that's not cool. And then we come out of left field with, all right, and here's some monsters. And when you're in school and you're 10 years old, they're not pumping a lot of monsters in there. So we had the luxury of, it was a little easier for me to stand out there in your middle school or grammar school library.
Was horror, like movies and things of that nature, was that something you were really into prior to this, or did you just kind of?
Yeah, I'm the most unhorror guy. Whoever, not that I like horror movies now. I like them more on the drama side as compared to the slasher side. But when I was a kid and I'd go to the movies, I would be that kid who would halfway through the movie call my mom on the phone and say, "Oh, you got to come and get me. This is too scary. I got to go home." So the fact that I then become the horror guy makes zero sense whatsoever. So
I don't know. I think it's spot on because you're not being influenced by anything else you're consuming. It's all just you.
I think it's even more innocent than that. I still think, underneath it all, I'm still the same kid I was when I was 10, and I know what was too scary. So I'm not putting it down there to push you guys over the edge either. I'm still like, all right, that's good. We don't have to go any farther than that.
Yeah, you're approaching it with kid gloves on. That's kind of perfect.
So, all right, let me ask a question. So you guys have been reviewing. So do you pick one book at a time, and you both read it beforehand, then you come in and it's kind of like a live book report?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like it.
We've been going in release order, so we've done 1 through 20 at this point.
Okay.
And then as an added bonus, we also rewatch the episode and
if there's a corresponding one. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's because that's always a good twist. Now, I had nothing to do with the television series, and so I watched it the same way you guys watched it. I would, Fox Kids in the afternoon, there's a new Goosebumps that's getting ready. I'm going to sit down and go, all right, what are we doing here? And the reason why I liked it was I knew all the backstory that, they didn't have a big budget. They were very limited in what they could do. And, and they were trying to crank them out as quickly as possible. So I never, there was never an intention when I was designing the cover that somehow we were then going to go to live, television or movies. So I would always go, I don't know how they're going to pull this off. So I'm dialing in just to go, all right, let's see how you do it. And what was cool was sometimes it lined right up. And I went, wow, yeah, that's what I did. And you guys made it work here in live action. Then there were other times where I'm going, there's no way you could do what I did. There's absolutely no way. What's your angle? And then they would conjure up something else, and I'd go, all right, pretty cool. I didn't know where you were going to go with it, but I like it. You came up with a solution that fits your budget. You still told the story, And so, yeah, I was as interested, in seeing where they were going as you guys were.
Yeah.
I was a grown man too, sitting there watching.
And we have compared, the episodes with the art, like certain things that you can compare. So, for example, like Horrorland, how true did they stay to what was presented on the cover to the television show? But also, I think one thing we both agreed on was the haunted mask. They did a really good job
Yeah, yeah,
of
that was
bringing to life what was on the
the
cover.
whole thing. Yeah, that they hit that one. That was, if you're going to suggest to somebody and they only get to watch one, that's the one we all would go, oh, you watch this one and you'll understand what's going to happen in the rest of the series.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
there were ones where I went, wow, that's you can't scare me. The mud men that are coming
Mhm.
out of the swamp. They hit that one spot on. I was just going, that looks just like the dude I made. That's all right. Way to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always interesting seeing where they differ, sometimes for the better, oftentimes for the worse, I feel like, but
yeah.
um when they can, like for example, the twist at the end of The Ghost Next Door is completely different than the ending of the book, which I don't know why they went that route, but
Yeah, that right, and that's a good question. I don't know, or was there pressure or what? Because
Mhm.
that was the coolest part of
Yeah.
that story, The Ghost Next Door. Because everybody went, "Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
it coming," and then,
Yep.
like you said, was there a stipulation of no, no kids can get killed in our story? Like who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? But there was something there, and they were compelled to change it.
Yeah. But it's been really interesting watching both and comparing. And it's awesome hearing that you also enjoyed, for the most
Yeah,
part, the TV
yeah.
series.
And then push it one more time when Netflix bought them up a few years ago, and you go, oh yeah, I haven't seen one of these in 20 years, and you put it on, it's way more entertaining, just due to the fact of the dialogue, the clothes, the campiness that I didn't really notice as much back in the day. Going, oh man, these are great. These are way more fun to watch now. So
Yeah, it's kinda interesting to see how they hold up to the test of time, and especially for us because we watched them as kids, rewatching them as adults, it's like, ooh, for me, I'm like, "Oh, it's a little brutal." How does that hold up to kids now who are used to high CGI and high this? So, I actually had my kids watch some with me. They love it because their
oh, that's cool.
imagination is still,
Yeah.
able to ebb and flow with what they're watching, so because I asked, "How do you feel about that? Did that feel kinda cheesy?" And they're like, "We loved it. Can we watch another one?"
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because my son's 20. He's 27, and I remember when he was a little kid, where when I watched TV when I was a kid, anything on TV or even in the movies, special effects were terrible, and you had to work your own head to suspend animate, to just go, okay, I'm in, where I remember him watching stuff as a kid, and I'm going, I can barely tell this isn't real. How are you, how are you getting your BS detector up here and reading through this? And, again, the kids it's nice to see that it also will work the other way too. So that's cool.
It's also fun to reread these and books that we didn't like as kids, like, maybe didn't land with us or resonate with us. As adults, I'm like, "Oh, I see what he was doing there. That makes so much more sense." And, yeah, so, it's been a fun journey rereading
Yeah.
these because I definitely feel like I'm pulling out more as an adult than I understood as a kid.
Yeah. Everybody can write a book now and publish it themselves. And that's great. When back in the day when I was doing covers, every author that I got a chance to do a cover for was overly vetted. They had worked their way up to get somebody who was, get it in front of a real publisher and a real editor. And, so every book I read they were all top drawer. They were all good. And now that's not the case. So I had done a couple of books back to back where I had to do the covers, and I was going, ooh, these stories are a little rough. And then I started to think, well, you've been doing this for 40 years. Maybe you're just, you're getting jaded, you're getting tired, you're turning into the get off my lawn guy. And so I said, all right. And I went back and I cracked the Goosebumps book and I read through it. And I went, oh, yeah, this is good. The structure, like I'm not looking at it as a story. I'm looking at how the thing was put together, why it was, why it was so effective. 125 pages, 10 or 12 chapters. So the chapters are real short, always leave you with a little cliffhanger to make you go, it's only 10 more pages. All right, I'm going to read one more chapter. And to get the kids to fly through the books. And you just go, yeah, this is genius. This is absolutely genius.
It worked on me then. It continues to work on me now. And
yeah, I just a different perspective now, which is kind of cool.
But no, that thought crosses my mind all the time. I'm like, next chapter, oh, it's 7 pages. I can handle this.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Now, you mentioned now you do watch a bit more horror. Has anyone ever approached you to kind of combine worlds and do pop culture art in the style of Goosebumps? So, for example, Michael Myers, but in Goosebumps.
Yeah. Yes. I'm in the middle of something right now, and it might be okay, and it might not be okay. So, but I'll tell you this. This is the story. Usually, when you do these redo scenarios, it's usually a group of fans. They pool their money together. They reach out to you and they say, yeah, Tim, we like your style. We wanted you to do a Freddy Krueger for us. When you do, then what we're going to do is we'll pay you, and then we're going to just do a limited number of prints, and it'll only be for our group, and we'll have art that you created for this theme. But these are loose groups of people, and it's sometimes they're organized and sometimes they're not. So I just finished a piece for a group of guys. It took a long time. The demands on my time have become incredible. I should be slowing down, and things are ramping up. So it took me longer than usual to get them on the board. So what I did, which I never do anymore, is I didn't take any money up front. So the piece is done, and I don't know if these guys are still around. So
no.
Yeah, so we'll see. That's why I'm saying I might be exaggerating. Everything may be fine. And
is it the Freddy Krueger and Goosebumps?
No, it's not Freddy Krueger. It's not.
Because I'm like, if they disappear, I'll buy it.
Any more than that, so,
yeah. Oh, that's awesome, though.
But yeah, it's a request that comes in, and yeah, it's fun. I did do one for. Oh, come on, Tim. It was a '90s movie. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, and the Swamp Creature were in it.
Monster Squad?
Yeah, Monster Squad. Yeah, so I redid that one, and that one's what I ended up. The finished product was very cool, and we did the whole thing, so it really looked like the movie poster with the credits printed at the bottom and all that stuff. That was fun. Yeah, that was real fun.
I'm gonna have to do a Lost Boys Goosebumps one.
There you go. Ooh, that's good.
I'm gonna reach out. So speaking of reaching out, on your website, jacobusstudios.com, right?
Yep.
People can order sketches and prints and items from you. Now, I found something really neat on your website that if people order items from you, you donate part of it to feed the hungry. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do that?
It started back during the pandemic. Like everybody else, when it's first thrust upon you, you go, "Oh man, is everything going to dry up, and are we going to have no money?" And luckily, the shots flew past us. I stayed busy, but then you're watching TV and more TV than usual. And you would see the news reports of people lining up to go to the food bank. And the stories were always the same. There'd be, some middle-aged person in their car going, "I've never had to ask for help in my life. But I need this." And I me and my son were spending more time together because we were locked up in the house. And I was going, I think, like I had put off doing Goosebumps prints for years. Just, the initial investment and all that stuff. And I went, "Come on, let's do it. This is a good excuse. Let's just do this. We'll put them out, and we'll do a percentage of the money we take in. And there's a food bank 5 blocks down the street." So I was like, "Well, just, I go, and we'll do it all." I said, we'll get the food ourselves. We'll put it in the truck ourselves, and we'll take it down the street ourselves. So we can say 100% of your donated money goes to what we say we're doing. And so, we buy either 4 or 6 posters. Maybe it was 4. It's all I could afford. And, and then start to sell them, and some people are buying them. And so, first time we go down there, we got a couple bags of groceries, and, we donate it. We go, all right, this is good. Now, this upstairs it is ready to go. We take that over. They're open on Saturday. Is our 50th delivery. And now we fill up the pickup truck. It's always full. And the shipment that we have upstairs might even bleed over a little bit. And we may have to get my kid to follow me in his car with a couple of extra stragglers. So we buy the food. We got smarter as we started to do it. So I order all the food from Walmart, and Walmart will deliver it to your house. But it comes in all Walmart boxes and bags. So when I first started going with all this food down the street, they were calling us the Walmart guys. They're going, "Oh, good, the Walmart guys are here." And they're like, "Do you work for Walmart?" I was like, "No." And I didn't want to get into telling the story. I just was like, "No, it's just where we get the food." And finally, after going for a number of years, and we had some conversations. So now we're the Goosebumps guys. We're not the Walmart guys anymore. But Walmart has been very helpful with if I had to go to the supermarket and buy all that stuff and trek it home, I'm I'm not complaining, but it's more work than honestly. Like when Saturday rolls around, I'm going to go, "Oh, all right," in a couple hours of loading the truck, taking it down the street, unloading it, and no, it's one of those things where they're very happy with us down the street, and it's nice to be able to do something for other people, and then then it forms a new addiction, and now you're doing it because it makes you feel good, so you do more of it, and all good. And again, it's fans like you. I'm not the one buying the posters every month. It's them. To me, it was like, all right, well, how long can I stay in business? Like 3 months. That all the people who ever would want a poster are already got. They already bought them, and every day there's orders, and it's very, very nice. It's very nice, and I'm glad we could do something extra with it.
Well, you've done a lot of covers, so even if they order 1 poster, there's
That's true.
99 over
That's
99
true.
more to go, so
That's true. And so just as a sidebar, doesn't mean anything, but we had what used to be my son's toy room, which is a semi-attic room in the house, was where we put the posters. And we finally had so many of them, and it was kind of it was folding tables with some handmade shelf. It was a hodgepodge. So we actually had to invest in real shelving. And so, we're starting to actually look like we know what we're doing as compared to some fly-by-night operation. So
That's awesome.
So, and we're a little overdue for introduce. I tried to put 2 new posters in every 6 months, and so we're overdue. So I might have to hit it hard and go 4 this time, and add 4 to it, and see if we can spark some more sales.
Do it. And if people want to see the Goosebumps guys giving back, you have pictures of your truck loaded with food on your website, and it's awesome. And definitely Walmart logo bags. But it's great. It's great that you give back directly to the community and that you're doing something like this. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Now, my last question for you.
All right.
Churning out all of these covers month after month after month, week after week after week, did it ever affect your dreams in any way? Like, did it cause nightmares or anything, or were you able to pretty much disconnect?
So, I've had this effect. I noticed it early on in my career. If I spend time creating an image where I've looked at my art more than any other person's looked at my art. So each thing I've spent 30 hours on it, just staring at it and every little detail. Oh, make sure you get the tooth right. Oh, that drip of goo coming out of his mouth. Once you spend so much time with it, it's arrested. It's put away. It's no longer, it's not a threat to anything. And so I have nightmares, but there's no monsters in there. It's just real life bad crap that comes to get me in my nightmares. And so no, I'm lucky enough that none of my creatures. Although I had one dream once, I was being chased, but not like a high speed. Like I'm running down a path, and then there's somebody behind me who's after me, and I get to the edge of the path and there's nowhere to go. And I went, oh, and I took out my paintbrush and I painted the rest of the scene and jumped into the scene and took off and got away.
Oh, wow.
That was one where I woke up and went, oh, that was pretty good.
That was good. That's good.
That was like Roadrunner. Paint the tunnel on the wall and then go through it.
Yep.
I love
That's
that.
where my mind went.
I just love that you woke up and went, oh, that was good.
That was good. Wait, no, it's good thinking.
Hey, really?
Yeah, and I just have one final question. Well, it's kind of a 2-part question. You talk about all the covers you've done and the fact that you stare at all of them, and you're probably your own biggest critic, right? So what would you say is your favorite cover you've done? And what would you say is your least favorite, or the one that you wish you could do again?
My favorite one, it changes. You'll go, oh, this is my favorite one. And then, so you and I go to cons together. And when you're at a con, that is a question that's going to come up at your table 10 times a weekend. And what I tell everybody is, I'll tell you one, but if you see me at another show, I may tell you a different one, or I'll come back next year and I might tell you a different one. So there's kind of like a group of them. And every once in a while, I'll go back and see one that I haven't seen in a while and go, oh yeah, I really like that one. That's cool. One that I think had all those elements in it, and we talked about it a little earlier, was Egg Monsters from Mars. I didn't know where I was going with the original idea. I really played up that warped perspective in that one. Was able to, take an average looking kitchen and make it look very weird and trippy, and the monster's pretty good. So yeah, I thought that one had all the, and there's a humorous element to it. It's not, it's kind of ridiculous. The monster's in a carton of eggs, and so that means it's only as big as a softball. How threatening could that be? So yeah, I like that one. The one that I don't like, one of them that I like the least, it's not that it's a bad painting, but I thought of a better idea as soon as I was done. You're halfway through and I went, oh, so it's Go Eat Worms. So it's a notebook with a bunch of little worms coming out of it. There should be, like, the painting could stay almost exactly how it is, but there should be a worm in the foreground that's very dominant, that looks very threatening. And, that should be your point of attention, where right now it's the pencil, it's the notebook, it's it's just, there's nothing that's shocking in that piece.
Nice. Well, it's never too late to do it again.
Oh, that's true. Absolutely. Oh, I know what I would do if I got called in to do Go Eat Worms again. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Awesome.
I will say Egg Monsters from Mars. The monster always reminded me of when you're carving pumpkins and you scoop out the pumpkin goop. That's what it reminded me of. Well, did we have any final thoughts before we wrap up this amazing episode?
Just thank you, Tim, for everything, for being on the podcast, for all the incredible work you've done, and for all the stories you've shared with myself and fans across the country.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. And, I may have told you this story before. It's not a story. It's the idea that we're still talking about this in 2024 is not lost on me. Like, this is a kind of an amazing ride, and that you guys are still, you're not interested in it tongue in cheek. You're still interested in it. And like that art and that series is still relevant. It makes no sense at all. Absolutely 100% makes no sense at all, but it's very cool. And people go, oh, don't you get tired? No way. Because there will be a time where we stop talking about this, and right now it's wonderful. So I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate that there's still enthusiasm.
Yeah, we very much appreciate you coming on, and also appreciative of Shamim, the Autograph King, for connecting us so that you could come on to our podcast. This is really special to us, and so thank you for that. We truly appreciate you. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to Listeners Beware. Are you looking for more spooky podcast content? Check out 3 Haunted Podcast, where Ashley and friends talk about all the things that go bump in the night.
And if you're looking for some fun nostalgic content, check out Wax Nostalgic Network on YouTube and Spotify and anywhere you can get your digital media.
Until next time.